welcome to the Bonus Boss Podcast with me, Benny Ulich, and of course, as always, Ryan Collins.
Hey, how's it going, Benny?
It's going all right. How about you?
It's a crazy time, but
Yep.
it's nice to escape for a little while and just talk about something other than what everything is going on in the world. It's kind of nice to have a little escape.
The world's on fire.
Yeah.
So let's just get into it how I normally would. What have you been playing this week?
I haven't played that much. I haven't been playing nearly as much as I usually do. But one thing, I don't know if you watched on Netflix The Queen's Gambit. Have you seen that has come out? It's like
No.
it's a chess show. So it's like about this girl who studies chess and goes and basically competes in Russia against really good chess players and stuff like that. Anyway, it's a little mini series on Netflix. You should check it out. It's pretty good. But it inspired me to start playing chess a little bit more. So I've been kind of downloading chess games on my phone and playing those. So I guess that's kind of gaming, even though yeah. So I've been playing that. And still playing Ghost of Tsushima online. I haven't played the story mode in a week, but I've been playing the online, which there's a mini story mode, and then there's also just a multiplayer battler type, which I said before, in my opinion, it's the best adaptation of a story mode game into a multiplayer. It makes the most sense out of any that style of game. Other games have tried to do it, I guess Grand Theft Auto, but they did it a different way. They still did a story mode online, but this game anyway, that's pretty much it. I haven't really been playing a hell of a lot this week, but trying to get in some more games coming up. But yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, so pretty much any chance I get, the main thing I've been playing is No More Heroes. So just this last week, they ported No More Heroes and No More Heroes 2 onto the Switch. And it reminded me that I already had No More Heroes on my PS3 and I still haven't played it. So I started that up. And I've been enjoying the heck out of it.
Nice.
It's a hack and slash kind of sci-fi parody. I don't know. It's really goofy, but it's also just a really good game.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. It's over the top. It's got kind of crude humor and very violent, but I don't know. I'm enjoying it. It's really silly, and I don't know. I guess I could use some humor in my life right now.
Right. Yeah.
And then, of course, I started just this last week playing Genshin Impact on stream.
Yeah, nice. So yeah, you guys can check that out on Facebook. Cool Fan Gaming on Facebook, and Benny streams usually on Sundays around 2 or 3 o'clock. So check him out on that stream. Yeah, I was watching you play Genshin Impact. It looks pretty cool to me. It's definitely, you playing it has inspired me to go check it out again and get a little bit further in the storyline. I saw you got the bat wings or whatever. That's
the glider.
The glider is pretty cool. It reminds me so much of Breath of the Wild. It's
for sure.
Yeah. But even the towers and everything, and that whole thing, it's just so much like it. But Breath of the Wild's also an awesome game. So if you're gonna model something or use similar graphics to any game, it's not a bad choice to model after. So
no, definitely. And I'm looking forward to some of the boss fights. I've been getting I still get ads for it on YouTube and stuff.
Yeah.
And I just keep seeing these really cool monsters,
Yeah.
And it's just, I love boss fights. I'll probably say this in every episode now. I love boss fights in games. And so I'm just waiting for some really good ones. And
yeah.
So far, there hasn't been a whole lot of combat, but they're teaching me how to play, and so
yeah, you had that one where you were flying, but it wasn't really it was kind of a mini.
Yeah, at first I was really excited, but
Yeah,
like you stay behind him the whole time. There's never any threat of him getting you. You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
you can't lose that.
Right.
So I was really waiting for him to like turn around and shoot fire at me or something or whatever, but it
Yeah.
didn't happen, and I'm sure that kind of stuff will come.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. It
easy
seems
and slow.
like something like that is just a foreshadowing of what they're gonna do in the game later. Some
Yeah.
kind of battle that's like that anyway. But yeah, it seems pretty cool.
Yeah,
I-
the story looks like it's leading into me fighting it, like that giant dragon. So
yeah.
that I hope it's a good one this time.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll get started with like a little bit of the gaming news. Once again, this podcast is sponsored by Ice Shaker. Check out the link in the description for Ice Shaker products and everything. They have some really cool sales online right now. If you don't know, Ice Shaker is a product that allows you to keep cold drinks stored so colder for longer. So if you're gaming for a long period of time and don't feel like getting up and getting a drink, it'll keep your drink nice and cold. So check out those products online at Ice Shaker. Check out the link in the description. Anyway, not a ton of news right now. I think everybody's waiting to really get like in depth into the launch release of these new systems, which of course is pretty exciting every time a new system comes out. I mean, you're getting some reviews of whether it's people that got them early because they have sites or different gaming sites or anything like that that they get to try out a product a little bit earlier. I will say one thing did happen. PS5 was involved in a lawsuit with someone that had a company that was making interchangeable faceplates for the PS5 itself, which the only
Previously PlayStation. Yeah.
yeah. So basically, the only reason why, in my mind, PlayStation would do this is because it's something that they're planning on doing themselves. So that's kind of interesting. Something, it's in my mind, it's a pretty large machine, and for a lot of people, they're going to have to convince either their significant other or their parents or whatever, whoever's also in the living room playing on the TV, that this is something that they want, in the room, this large machine. We're not talking like a mini fridge by any means, but it's a big, it's
Yeah.
it's probably twice the size of, a large router or something like that. And it looks like a router too, at least the PS5 does. So
Yeah.
both of
It,
them are pretty large machines. So
it takes up a lot of space, so you got to figure that out for sure.
yeah. So um, we'll see what happens, how more people react to it. Because right now the sample size is pretty small of people that have it already or company, first looks at it. So once it's released to everyone, we'll see how the public reacts to the machine. But hopefully, the technology and everything is going to be the shining star, right? Like
Yeah.
everybody complains about the appearance, but at the end of the day, if if it looked absolutely terrible, people would still buy it. If you're getting faster load screen times, if you're getting more storage, which by the way, PlayStation does not have a ton of storage for these larger games that are coming out, so you're
Mhm.
definitely going to have to get some sort of external storage for it. Just something to keep in mind. Maybe instead of spending the money on the PlayStation 5 right away, take advantage of some of those Black Friday deals on terabyte, or more storage, external storage devices that you can get. And that way, because some other news coming out, PlayStation 5 won't even at launch have any physical PlayStation 5s for sale in stores, supposedly, because, obviously, Benny brought up a good point before the show. We were going over some things that the coronavirus and long lines and everything like that. They want to
Yep.
avoid that this year. So, it makes sense that they wouldn't have any on hand at the time of launch. Plus, who wants to camp out in line and have the hopes of getting one and then not get one? I did think it would be cool content for the site of Benny and I
Yeah.
camping out and going to get one. Because I do like the madness of like Black Friday and
Hmm.
other things like that. But to be honest, that's just, it's unlikely that you'd get one. And if you got one, it's not worth getting a virus over if you're around that many people waiting for one. So,
Yeah,
um,
for sure. It's I think it's the right call. It might be disappointing. I mean, we were gonna make some cool content, but
yeah,
I mean, it's the right call. And additionally, it sounds like they're planning on having more than will cover the pre-orders.
yeah,
So you can still try to get one. You just got to be, they'll probably still sell out pretty quick. Like that's how
yeah.
consoles tend to go. But if you look at the right place on the day of, you might be able to get your hands on one.
Yeah, so yeah, you gotta check out online stores and things like that to see if you could get one. I didn't have much luck when they did the pre-orders to try to get one. A lot of sites were crashing and everything. So hopefully, PlayStation has worked with some of these retailers to try to figure out a better way of getting these devices into people's hands, because it was messy to say the least, for pre-orders for both Xbox
Yeah.
and PlayStation, but it was messy. Um, you try to get one in Best Buy and you wouldn't be able to refresh your cart, and it would say it's in your cart but nothing was really there and everything. So hopefully they don't have the same issues, but I'm kind of leaning on the side that they probably will have these issues, just because of the amount of people that are so excited about these consoles coming out. It does seem like PlayStation might be selling a little bit more than Xbox, but who cares at this point, right? Both consoles are pretty amazing new devices and definitely going to take us into a new generation of gaming. Speaking of that, the CEO of EA says that DICE, with Battlefield coming out, is going to be one of the largest games ever built. Battlefield has always been a game. I don't know if you've ever played it, but basically, it's a shooting game, a war style game. They've always had larger maps and larger battles. I've kind of appreciated it more than Call of Duty is a very arcade like game.
Yeah.
It's very fast moving, which it's still fun. I'm not saying it's not, but with additions of Warzone, they had to have something like that that was a little bit more slow pace. But really, the start of all these, like like a Fortnite style game, these large battle royale style games,
Hmm.
Battlefield started that. Like
Yeah.
they really were like the pioneers of large scale battle games like that. Maybe not the same idea with the shrinking, uh, field of play, but the Hunger Games style of play, but
Yeah.
the actual map itself and everything like that the size and everything they've always favored or started in Battlefield games, and that's they're talking about like having like hundreds of tanks on fields and all sorts of stuff, and much larger scale battles, um, with many people playing at once. And obviously with the new technology of the new systems, they can handle it a little bit better. So definitely exciting. It's never before seen scale, according to the CEO of EA. So it's starting to see that style of play still being used, and obviously, the more people that are playing in a game and everything like that, it kind of makes it cooler. It's interesting to interact. I mean, that's why games like World of Warcraft and things like that became so
Yep.
popular, right? Like there's just like a huge amount of people playing at once, and you could visit all these different people and meet whoever and all stuff like that. And although Battlefield's a different style than that, you still get that many people playing at once. It's just impressive to see. So
Yeah.
um yeah, that's pretty much it for the gaming news section. We don't really have a ton. We're excited for a couple games to come out. I know I'm excited for a few Zelda games to come out. I know Benny's excited about that too. There's also a game for PlayStation, and the name escapes me right now. What's the game that you will be streaming?
Cyberpunk
Yeah.
2077.
Yeah, so once that comes out, Benny's going to be streaming that, which is pretty cool. I will be
If it doesn't keep getting delayed.
Yeah, that's true. So I'm excited to play the new Assassin's Creed. I think that's going to be really cool. So I'm probably going to get that and stream that. It looks like a really cool game, and I think that's launching soon. I think on the 11th, I believe, is when that game's launching. So that will be really cool to play. I've kind of been off and on Assassin's Creed games, right? Like I'm not a lot of my friends are dedicated Assassin's Creed
Mm,
players. I'm more like I like to take breaks from it for a little while because I think they get repetitive to a certain extent, even though the storyline's drastically different and the idea or plot of the game is a little bit different. The overall game, I mean, if we're being honest, it is the same every time. So that's a good game with a storyline. But anyway, we'll move on to our next little segment of the show, which Benny had some great ideas, so I'll let him kick it off here.
all right. So you know what? Before I get into my little activity, I
Okay.
love my activities, but before we get into that, I know that normally we don't generally get, political or whatever, but I feel like what I have to say is really important.
Hmm.
And so like the fate of, I don't know, our nation, no, our world is dependent on the decision that's made soon. And that is PlayStation or Xbox, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I, for one, am tired of playing it down the middle, and I am going to make it known
Yep.
that I stand with Sony and with PlayStation 5 on this
So,
one.
Sony has your vote.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, I just wanted to make the stupid joke. I
Here,
really wanted to
here.
lead into
No, it's
that.
funny. It's a good light humor for obviously times that are very crazy right now. I mean, literally, Benny and I are recording this episode. May not come out today or tomorrow. Who knows? But the president of the United States can literally be announced as we're recording this, and Benny and I are in our own little gaming world. We would have no idea at this
Yeah,
point,
you know what?
which you know what is kind of okay with me at this point right now.
I'm good.
Yeah. So
We'll know when we know.
yeah, exactly. But to add on to that, I would like to ask you at this point, would you be getting the larger console PlayStation or would you be getting the smaller digital version?
See, that's so tough. Probably the larger one
Okay.
because not like I specifically intend to go get physical games. I do like having them on my shelf. It's like a mini collection for me. But for one thing, they are doing some of the backwards compatibility. And like
Hmm.
I have disc games. So like if my like for my PS4. So if my PS4 like falls apart like I thought it was going to last month,
Yeah.
it'd be nice to have something where I can play all my discs. So that's kind of where I'm leaning. But like when I was looking at, like I was considering even getting the new Xbox too, like getting both of them eventually. With that, I definitely want the all digital because the price is right on that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
What, that's going to be like 300? Is that right?
Yeah. I'm not sure the exact prices on it, but I know it's, significantly cheaper.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, that's solid, honestly.
Yeah.
And I don't have any Xbox. I've never owned any Xbox. So it's not like I'm missing out on some backwards compatibility, or like the only thing I'd really miss out on is getting like games from GameStop for cheap or from Amazon for cheap or whatever. But
Yeah.
like, I don't know. So with PlayStation, I'm leaning towards getting the larger one with the disc base, but I've been playing more digital anyway, so
Yeah.
who knows?
Yeah, I'm on the digital side personally for me, just because I do buy discs, and it is, when it comes down to, that might put me over the edge. When people want to get you a gift for Christmas, whatever you celebrate or
Yes.
anything like that, a gift for your birthday, anything like that, they don't want to give you a Sony points card, right?
Yeah.
They want to
Or
give you a physical something, and it's so much easier to ask for a game and actually have a physical game. So that might sway me the other way. Actually, I don't use I don't use many discs at all. I haven't in a long time. I barely, if I'm buying something, I usually always get the digital copy at this point. But with space issues and things like that, like there is, probably a need to get a larger machine there. But I do agree with you on my argument before was if you got both digital, if you got the Xbox digital one and you got the PlayStation digital, you basically could argue that okay, for like $100 more or whatever, you're getting the Xbox too instead of
Mhm.
just having the larger PlayStation. Although it's made to be seen whether the Xbox really has that enough games that are solely for Xbox that I'd be interested in. Like I would be interested in playing like Halo or like Gears of War if that's not if that even if they have a new one. I'm not sure about Gears of War, but those kind of games, like yeah, I remember playing them on Xbox and they're cool, they're fun and everything like that. I don't think that I'd be playing like any other kind of multiplayer game on there because I
Yeah.
already play those on PlayStation, so it doesn't really make sense for me. But anyway, yeah, my vote is going for PlayStation as well. I think uh, overall the system is just better, and to me, you know, the game selection and everything like that plays a part into it too. But it's that gap is getting less and less. There's not as many games that um, are only selective to certain systems. But anyway, yeah. So why don't you
All right.
explain our little
So
activity here?
so let's get into my little activity. So basically, it's pretty simple. It's just a game of favorites. So I created a bunch of categories, and we each picked our favorite game or what we consider to be the best game in that category.
Yep.
And we can describe it briefly or whatever. So we'll take turns on each category. Um, I'll have you go first each time. So let's start with what you're probably more familiar with than I would be. Best shooter game.
Yeah, for me, this one's kind of easy just because I play it a lot more. It is Call of Duty for me. It's just the best out right now. Warzone, I might not have said this before Warzone came out. I might have been on the side of like a Battlefield type game or something like that, but actually, just a multiplayer game that you playing online, everything like that, with Warzone Edition and everything like that they've added to the experience itself. The best shooter is Call of Duty. It just is. But that's my Call of Duty would take it for me.
Okay. I said Mass Effect 2.
Okay.
So for one thing, I've played so much Mass Effect. Like I sunk so much time into that series as a whole. I love the shooting gameplay, the RPG elements, the story, everything. It's fantastic. But Mass Effect 2 in particular is by far the best game in the series and one of the best games I've ever played.
Okay. Yeah. You've said it enough that I definitely got to check out this game. I haven't played it, and at this point, I definitely just got to give it a try and check it out because I got to see what this is all about. Your
Yeah.
obsession with it.
Yep. But maybe ignore Andromeda. Not as
Okay.
good.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So next, let's look at another category you're going to be a little more familiar with: sports games.
And for me personally, I don't think it's like the best graphics wise, the best game, anything like that. But my most enjoyable sports game is NHL. It's just the game that I'm the best at. I'm the best, overall. I would argue in my friend group, there's a couple people that can compete with me in certain games, but I'm just very good at the game. I enjoy playing it alone. It's one of those sports games that like I do not care if I'm actually playing against someone else. I can play against somebody online or against the computer or anything like that. I can play full seasons. It definitely I don't watch a ton of hockey really, which is ironic. I watch like the Bruins and I watch hockey games in general. I watch it's my probably third sport that I watch. But as far as like a video game, one of my friends a long time ago said this: like, if you want to learn more about a sport, buy a video game uh,
Mm-hmm.
with that sport because you will learn so much about the rules. Not only the rules, you'll learn about the rosters that teams have. You'll start to learn player names, everything like that. There's a lot of sports games I play. Don't get me wrong. I play MLB a lot. I'm not good at that game, but I find it enjoyable. I've said that before. And I play Madden a decent amount, but Madden Online is probably the most competitive game, and it's very hard to play against people that, you see streamers on Twitch and things like that. They play like crazy. Like there's guys that just play for 8 hours a day playing Madden. I don't think I'll ever be that, but in a party game situation, Madden's a good favorite because people like beating each other in football. It's just like the way it is. But NHL specifically, I will say that I started off, probably it was the first sports game that I ever got into, not the NHL franchise with EA, or not EA. I forget, but I forget what they're. Yeah, it's EA. Okay, but the thing that I played the most when I was a kid or with friends, a sports game, was Blades of Steel, which
Okay.
was kind of what led me, and my friends and I, or one of my friends in particular, we'd always come up with like names for the different guys because back then they didn't really have
Mhm.
necessarily that. Those games hold up. Like you could still break out Blades of Steel and it would still be fun. Obviously the graphics and everything like that and the mechanics of skating around and everything, but the enjoyment of playing is still there. Anyway, NHL is my favorite sports game.
All right. So one could argue that maybe it's not a sport, but I went
Okay.
with WWF No Mercy for the Nintendo 64 because it's not just like one of my favorite games. It's the greatest wrestling game of all time. There's no better wrestling game, and it might be the game I've put the most time into ever. I
Wow.
I used to play it so much. Um, like I unlocked all the characters that you can unlock. I, got all the bonus items and beat all like there's like 8 different story modes, I think, and I beat all of them. And yeah, there's like a story mode for each championship.
Yeah.
I did all of it. And I love that game. I still love that game.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I liked that game a lot too. I liked I like WWE games because they're so outrageous and it's
Uh-huh.
almost like the when you get to use the chairs, when you get to use all the other stuff, that's what makes that game those types of games. I'm not sure if that particular one could use like chairs and stuff in that.
Yeah, you could.
Oh, okay, that one, yeah, that's what I thought. So, that makes that game for me, right? Like
Mhm.
and not to diss wrestling at all, because I won't do that because I am leaning towards more. I didn't originally, but because of your writing on quotefed.com and writing about wrestling, I do consider it. I mean, while the matches might be predetermined, let's just say
Mhm.
that the actual athleticism and all the rest of the stuff, uh, the physical, actually, like these guys like spending hours and hours like
Mhm.
perfecting their routines and everything like that. You gotta like just tip your hat to like some of that stuff that is like obviously a huge athletic, and let's face it, it wouldn't be the only sport to be fixed, right? Like there's other sports games out there that have been fixed due to betting and things like that. Like it's not the first. Obviously, it happens all the time because of just the way wrestling is set up. But it's to me, I'll include it as a sports game. That's okay with
Yeah.
me.
Well, I mean, I've started to think about, I'm going to go on a quick little wrestling tangent. I start to think about it kind of like how you would like figure skating, like Olympic figure skating, because sure, in the sense of in the story of the show, it's a competition, right? Like The Rock wants to fight Stone Cold. But what it really is that in a fake fighting type of way, those two guys are putting on a routine,
Yeah,
right? They go out to the ring, they tell their story, then they're done, right? So like together as a partnership, even though they're opponents, like they just danced or whatever, or did their figure skating routine.
yeah.
It's just as much of a sport as that, or like professional cheerleading.
Yeah, so here's where you could make the connect, right? Like the in figure skating or like something like that, there's judges out there that vote on your performance and that's how you win. So for like wrestling, it's the same idea. Vince McMahon and like other members of the WWE are looking at your performance
Yeah.
and judging that and seeing how good you do. And because of that, you get other matches with other guys or whatever. So you're putting on a show and they are looking behind the scenes. Obviously, we don't see too much of that side of it, right? Like there's certain guys that just because of their physical nature and everything like that are always going to get good matches because they're,
because they're so
whatever
tall.
yeah, whatever it is, like the, better looking, better, anything like that. Like there's just guys that Vince McMahon or, other wrestling companies are going to, you know, pit against each other and things like that. But, they probably have more say in what they do and everything like that than a lot of other sports because they kind of control their own destiny in a certain sense.
Yep. All right. So next, how did I write this? Best spooky game. So it could be a horror game, it could be a thriller, just generally spooky vibes.
Yeah, Resident Evil for me is like
there you go.
the pick. Just because like I haven't played all of them, but if you want a game that it was probably the first game that I actually like got a little like jumped back at, was like scared by what was going on. And actually made me have a physical reaction to a game because like the game itself, and especially like the co-op mode and everything like that, when you're playing with somebody else, if you like really get into the game and you have, a friend over, or you play with your significant other or whatever, and you shut off the lights and it's just you two, and like that kind of stuff is like a lot of fun. And obviously they've kind of taken over that, franchise or whatever, arguably a very good shooter as well. I would say. So anyway, that's my choice.
So I'm actually changing my mind from what I wrote. I originally wrote Dead Space, and I do love Dead Space, but I just remembered that I needed to say BioShock. So like, it's not a horror game in the same way that Dead Space is, but it's like, it's really eerie. Like the whole time you're feeling on edge or whatever. It's the first game I ever played that was remotely scary.
Yeah.
And it was big for me. In fact, while playing that game, there's a bit in there where there was a little bit of a jump scare, like nothing too horrible, but it caught me off guard so much that I peed myself. Like, I wish I was joking.
Breaking news. Benny pees himself during playing BioShock.
Well, just that first time. Look, I don't
Not
still
consistently
actively pee myself
every time you see it.
No, it was when was that too? That was 2012. So I was like 20, I was 22, 21, something like that. I was an adult. And I peed myself while whoa.
Getting worked up thinking about it now.
Yeah. No, so there's this bit where there's like statues all over the place in like this area of the game, and I just had a bad feeling about those statues, so I'm taking my wrench or whatever and I'm bashing all of them. And I'm like, oh, okay, just for good measure, whatever.
I think I know what you're talking about. I think I know what thing you're talking about. Anyway, continue.
So then you go down into this like deep dark basement and you
get
the item you need. So you go in, there's one of those statues in there, and I'm playing, like, my roommate's sitting right next to me. He's played a million times and whatever. Just like, you need to play this. So I go over, and like every time I see one of those statues, I just start shooting them or hitting them with my wrench or whatever, because I just know that something's gonna happen with these guys. So there's one of those statues, it's in the corner of the room or whatever, and I go over and I start bashing it, and then I go into the other corner where you need to get the item you need. So I grab it, and now it's time to go back out of that room and go to the objective, cross back through the whole area. You turn around, and I noticed that there's a statue in the middle of the room that wasn't there before, but I was like gonna ignore it real quick. And I just started to walk past. My roommate goes, wasn't that in the corner? And I said, yeah, that's weird. I'm gonna go hit it. So I go over with my wrench, and I start to walk over, and it leaps at me. And it just attacked me, and like, it caught me off guard so bad. I peed myself. I switched to my guns. I didn't say anything to my roommate. I just start shooting it until it's dead. And then I'm like, excuse me, give me a minute. And I go to the bathroom and clean up, and I came back and kept playing.
That's great.
So yeah, BioShock. That's a great game.
One of the categories that we didn't have on this list, but BioShock would be it for me, is just like overall like fantasy design, landscape, beautiful game to play, would be One that I don't think I actually even finished technically the game completely, but one that I would go back and play too. So anyway, moving on.
All right, so now we're looking at the best fighting game.
Yeah, I've put a lot of fighting games over the years. There were some actually for like Dreamcast, and I can't remember I never owned a Dreamcast system, but I remember somebody that I knew had one. Not that terribly popular of a system, but when it came out, a little bit different than everything else. So some people had them, um, and I can't remember what the fighting game that was kind of fun. But for me, it's Tekken. I think
Okay.
that like just like the storyline of the guys and everything like that, but just like the fighting style and everything is just more my alley. I mean, Street Fighter's close, and other games can Mortal Kombat and everything like that. Like those are good choices too, and maybe one that you picked. I'm not sure.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat's a big one for me, but I actually went with Super Smash Brothers. It's just the original one.
Yeah,
Specifically, it's really unique. It's especially when it came out. A lot of stuff has copied it since, but when it originally came out, there was nothing else like it. So
yeah, that's a good one. It's also a great game to like play with friends and
yeah,
just like you could play with a ton of people. And I actually like before earlier today I saw a post on Facebook of somebody that had like rented out a movie theater just to play like Super Smash Brothers with their friends and
that's
everything.
cool.
And it was just like, yeah, that'd be pretty cool to play. Not a lot of my friends are into it, but that like it's one of those games really cool. I do have it on the Switch. I don't like play. I played a little bit of the story mode kind of thing that they had on there, but I didn't make it too far, and it gets really tough if you don't invest a lot of time into like getting your character better and being overall better at the game. But definitely a fun game to play with like other people and stuff like that. And certainly the Switch and everything has taken that game to like another level. So
Oh yeah. So let's look at the best action adventure game.
yeah, I've mentioned this game before. It's kind of easy pick for me. Uncharted. The Uncharted games are the best, like action and slash story, but they're always like one of the first games that are released on like a new system for PlayStation. And the game itself is just the adventure part of it, everything like that. They get better every time, and the graphics are really good on it always. The shooting's very good in the game too. Everything like it's pretty realistic. The bad guys in the game are pretty unrealistic, in my opinion. But I
Yeah.
guess that's kind of goes with the territory with some games because you find little glitches in games where like, oh, like yeah, the guard like doesn't even know that I'm here or whatever, whatever it might be, or this guy's way too good, like he's just like a mediocre character, but somehow he's like killing me every time. So you'll find those in it, whatever games, but that game in particular, I noticed it a lot more. But anyway, that's my choice, Uncharted.
Is there a specific Uncharted game that you prefer over the others?
I don't remember the name. Might have been was the one have like a fortune title?
So let's see. The first one is Drake's Fortune,
Hmm.
and then Uncharted 2 is Among Thieves. Uncharted 3 is Drake's Deception, and Uncharted 4 is A Thief's End.
Yeah, it might have been the first one that I liked the most. I can't remember particularly, um but yeah, I mean like they're all good. I
The
haven't played
series as
all
a
of them.
whole, yeah, for
Yeah, but
sure.
the design and like the graphics on everything and everything like that, like I was always like when you play the new one, or even if I watched like gameplay online or whatever, it was just always impressive to me. Another game that was actually cool like that was or Just Cause.
Okay.
A little bit different style of a game. You have it's well, completely different style actually, but like
Mhm.
as far as like the adventure part and taking over an island kind of situation, everything like that. I liked the destruction part of it too. Like you had to purposely like destroy enemy camps and things like that, and you'd have to, tie things together or drop bombs in certain areas or whatever. And it was all about like just overall destroying an area. And I always thought that was cool. But anyway,
Yeah, so I went with Uncharted 2. So I don't
yeah,
feel like I need to say a whole lot
okay,
more.
yeah,
But that was just a really good game.
yeah.
All right, so next, let's look at. Okay, this is the one I felt really creative. The best game that you haven't finished yet.
Red Dead Redemption for me is that game.
Okay,
It is an amazing game, and it's one of those games that there is too much to do.
too
There's
much.
too
Yep.
much storyline. There's too much just overall tasks that you could do. Specifically, Red Redemption 2. The map is huge. There's a lot to like do in general. It is a very good game. I have never finished it because honestly, like I think another game came out after, and I just got wrapped up in that one. That's the problem with games like that. Unless you seriously have like a ton of time to devote to like beating a game, and some people like they prioritize and do that and play a game straight through, and that there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, obviously this is a gaming podcast, so that's our demographic is people who like to play games. But for me, like getting that invested in a game and playing it through is probably just the length of a game and the size of it and everything like that is why I didn't finish it. I do think that like I will say I'm a serial gamer, right? Like so
Mhm.
I'm always interested in like the next game. I don't want to be like left out and not try something out and stuff like that. So like for me, it's like I like playing for a little while, a couple, weeks, month or whatever, and then I move on to the next game and see what it's like. And then you start stacking up all these games that you haven't finished. And
Yeah.
Red Dead Redemption is one that I'd like to go back and finish. I just haven't done it yet.
I know exactly how that is.
Yep.
Uh, I've talked about this a lot. I had a list of 182 games at the beginning of 2020.
Yeah.
That doesn't include the sequels that I own. So I've been spending this year trying to actually finish games and not
Yeah.
jump onto the next one. So that's actually been going really well for me. Um,
Yeah. What
but
number are you down to now?
I think I'm at 165.
Nice.
Yeah, I've been doing really well. But this is like I'm finishing a lot of games, but I'm still getting more games from time to time. Like I'm buying some, and then each month with PlayStation Plus. Luckily, November is games I already had, so
Yeah.
nothing gets added to the list.
Yeah, check out Benny's got some cool videos online on YouTube. What's your name on there?
Just Benny Ulich.
Yeah, Benny Ulich, okay. And we also like kind of share those on Facebook Gaming when we can. We see a few of those up there. So definitely cool to check out playing down games that you once had an opportunity to play and maybe got just like left on the shelf and didn't
Yep.
get play back. I should do that too. Probably have a ton of games, and that the list is probably about half yours, but it's still a ton of games that I haven't that I spent money on at one time. That's when it gets like
Yeah.
crazy, right? When you start adding it up and it's like, all right, this one was $60, this one was $40, and then you like start adding it up and you're like, I could have 4 consoles right here. Like,
Right.
so but yeah,
Um,
I think that's just kind of the nature of what I was just talking about too. You get a little bit bored, you want to play the new game, like everybody does it. So um
but even through all this, a game that has been escaping me finishing it is Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. I really enjoy it. It's really good. It's also really hard.
yeah.
It's challenging, but it's like when you beat like the bosses or clear a section of the game or whatever, it's really rewarding.
Yeah.
Like you feel like, man, I just did that, right? That was awesome. Like that's what's great about a good boss fight, where you go, man, I
Oh
did it,
yeah, yeah.
you
When you
know?
finish a boss fight, it's crazy. The rewarding
Mhm.
satisfaction of beating a boss, like that's what that's what people are listening to this podcast for. That's like the bonus boss like theme is just like beating something when
Yeah.
you get that satisfaction. I can't pronounce anything. Satisfaction of beating a boss like that. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It,
I've never played. Well, actually, that's not true. I did play Metal Gear Solid, one of them that was free on PlayStation Plus at one time. I
mm,
played a little bit, but I never got into the series. I know a lot of people that have, but for me, it wasn't something that I started off playing. Probably because I didn't really play that type of game when I was younger, and that's a series that's been going on for a long time. So, but anyway.
All right. So next up, let's look at the best trailer that you've seen.
Yeah, this one was kind of like tough for me because I couldn't like pinpoint exactly one, but like, I guess for me, probably when like Halo,
Mm,
when like those games were released, I just always remember it being like a big deal. And like when the new game came out and like the overall marketing budget and like everything, like I'm a marketing guy, so like uh, all that was very impressive to me. And I don't remember a specific trailer, but I just remember like the feeling of like some type of game like that. And obviously, Halo had huge success, and they're gonna continue to have success. And uh, that was probably too like the first like game online multiplayer, a game that started to really start a whole culture of like making fun of online multiplayer at the same
mm.
time. Like funny things that would happen would turn into memes or like whatever, but you see it online or see it like back in the day, E-Bombs World or whatever, like there's like so
Red
anyway.
versus blue.
Yeah, right.
Um, so initially, I was thinking I'd go with one of the original Gears of War trailers. They had that Mad World trailer that was really just dark and intense. And I remember specifically, I have this really vivid memory for some reason of that trailer playing a few times, like while I was watching wrestling when I was a kid. But that's not what I went with. I
Okay.
went with something more recent. Earlier this year, maybe it was late last year, they announced No More Heroes 3 for the Switch with the most bizarre trailer. It was like a huge misdirection where it looked like some like anime movie or something.
Yeah.
And it was like this really cute thing where it was like this boy becomes a best friend with an alien and he helps him get back to his planet, and then the alien comes back and now he's a bad guy, and
Yeah.
it's like this big thing, and it's like, oh, that looks like a really cool movie, and then it's like, psych, it's a No More Heroes game.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I was so invested, and then like we had that big reveal, and it's like, this is even better now. I
Yeah.
loved
Yeah.
that so much. I'm sure a lot of people were upset by like, thinking it was one thing and there was something else, but I was all on
Now
board.
that I think about it a little bit more, one game that had like a cool trailer or whatever that got people definitely very interested was when Pokemon first switched over to this like new open world
Mm,
concept, and you could see like, oh man, you're actually going to be able to like see the Pokemon in like in the wild, but
yeah,
because in other, obviously other games that you play Pokemon, like there weren't like wild roaming. It was just like, and these new Pokemon games, I don't think they can ever go back now, right? Like they
yeah.
always have to be like free roaming from now on. So it's pretty cool. So that might be, but anyway, we're both kind of picking like two every time, but that's okay.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
All right, so racing games.
Yeah, so this is another one that I have two for, but you can't deny Mario Kart is like the best like racing game or one of the best racing games like ever to come out, just because of its, if you're playing with friends, if you're like, it's a game that you can play with like 7-year-old and have like a
Yeah,
blast with, like it's just a universally like well respected game and fun, everything like that. I really liked when they came out with that new Mario Kart for your phone, and you could play that too. That was pretty fun. Another one that I just remember being really good, I think this was because this was like one of the first like serious consoles that I had, was the N64, and Diddy Kong Racing on N64 was awesome.
I
um,
forgot about that one.
yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's probably like the first, like in Mario Kart you can, okay, you could certainly go and like beat every circuit, right? You
Yeah,
can certainly like do that. But I felt in Diddy Kong Racing, they made it like it was like a mix of like a storyline game with a racing game. And, you could probably pull like 10 other guys and they would, they'd pick like Gran Turismo, like, there'd be like a bunch of other like racing games. And there are other ones that I've played. But it's kind of funny, like the one with the least graphics and the least dedication to cars, like a Need for Speed game or something. All those games were really cool when they first came out. Like when Need for Speed had cops for like the first time, and you could like be chased by a cop. It was like amazing, an amazing breakthrough for like video games in general. But
Yeah,
anyway, those are my kind of two picks for that.
we're pretty much on the same page here, except I went for Crash Team Racing, which
Okay.
like it's better than Mario Kart. I don't care. It just is. But yeah, pretty much for the same reasons you said. It was a
Okay.
lot
Yeah.
of fun though.
Yeah.
All right, so best superhero game.
For me, it was. I do not remember the name of it, but I remember my dad took me out to buy a computer specifically because I had bought this game. I bought this game, and it did not work on our current computer. My dad had like a computer for work or whatever, so we had to go and maybe it was like a graphics card we had to buy to upgrade to our other computer or whatever it was. I think that's what the situation was. So it was one of those games that like the game itself, I actually like spent more on the graphics card than on the game itself,
Yeah.
but it was Spider-Man.
Okay.
When like that first Spider-Man came out, and like my, looking at back on the graphics now, I mean, like, obviously, arguably, if you buy like a PC and you soup it up and everything, they're better than consoles. That's an argument that people are going to have no matter what. But at the time, it wasn't necessarily that this game was like any more better on like a PC than it was on a console or anything like that. It was just that I bought it for a PC and we had to upgrade our PC because of it. And it was a lot of fun. It was like the old school Spider-Man game. It was a lot of fun. Not only like you couldn't even really like web sling around the city at all. Like it would get to a certain point and it would just like turn around Spider-Man and you'd have to go back the other way. Like it was just like it's like very strange, that whole setup. But
Invisible walls.
yeah,
Yep.
but the it was like, you'd sneak into a place, you have to web sling the guards, you'd have to like tie them up and like stuff like that. It was a lot of fun for its time. And now the games that come on with Spider-Man, I mean, like it's the game that everybody sees and they're like, I have to swing through the city. Like, and you could like do that and not play the rest of the game and it would be fun. Like just
Yeah.
like go into buildings and like whatever. And like, I haven't even beaten the last Spider-Man game, but it was a ton of fun. Just like, oh wow, I can actually go through the whole city now and like stuff like that. It was just so Spider-Man franchise with superhero, that whole like side of it. It's Spider-Man for me.
With the most recent Spider-Man game, uh, like there's a fast travel system. So like at certain points you can just like, select an area and fast travel. I never used that. Like I was web slinging everywhere I went
Yeah.
because it was so much fun.
Right. Yeah.
Like it
Yeah.
didn't matter if it was on the other side of the map. I went and did it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's crazy. I mean, like the dedication that they put into designing the maps now and everything to make them look like real cities, obviously,
Yeah.
like kind of based off of New York and everything like that. It's like very cool that they put that much level of detail into stuff. And especially with the new technology of the consoles, you might see like way more than that, which is awesome.
Yeah. So I chose Batman Arkham City.
Okay.
That whole series is really good, but Arkham City in particular is just solid. It's a big game, lots of really good boss fights. I mean, you can't really go wrong with Batman, can you?
Right. Yeah.
So, yep. So that's what I went with. Next, let's look at our next. So best platformer.
Yeah. So it's probably like a couple, I guess, like Crash Bandicoot was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I bought it like the re-release on PlayStation. I bought that and we played it for a little while, and it's a good game to play with somebody who's like not that into video games. So that and Spyro when it first came out. And now it's on the Switch too. It's a cool game to play. This is probably like my less played of all the categories, but it's a cool game. And definitely like when Spyro first came out on PlayStation and everything, it was like one of those like revolutionary games where like people had it a lot, and you go to somebody's house and be like, oh, you want to play Spyro? Like that's like, it was a cool game at the time, something different. Knew this little dragon that flew around and everything? It was a cool character and everything like that. Good game.
I went with Super Mario 64 because it's great. That's pretty much, and like they just re-released it on the Switch in the 3D All-Stars collection, and so people are still playing it again, and it still holds up. It's a really good game.
Yeah, that's one I kind of forgot about. Well, didn't forget about, but like forgot on when I was making this list. Super Mario 64 is an awesome game. It was like crazy unique at the time, based on like the hidden levels and where you would get stars, and like trying to figure that game out when you first started. I mean, we're going back to like games like Donkey Kong when it came out, Donkey Kong 64. I'll say when that first came out, I remember like, you had to like at that time buy a magazine or a book to like play the game, because there were so many hidden levels and like stuff like that you had to find. You don't find that anymore due to the internet, but you used to at one time have to like go out and like, or whatever, beat it yourself, but also find some guidance to play.
All right, so then we've got similarly, best side scroller.
Yeah, for I guess like the first game that I really played a lot of was Mario like 3. It was probably in my mind the best out of that franchise series besides Mario 64. It was it's a fun game to play with other people. It's a fun game to challenge yourself to get better at and everything like that. It's held the test of time. People will play that game forever. So yeah, that's my choice.
I went with Donkey Kong Country, from close to the same era. But I wrote another one down. I picked Celeste. That came out last year, 2018, I think. So that would be like my modern choice. Celeste is really challenging. But it's one of those games where as you play it, like you'll make a mistake, you'll fall down a hole or whatever, but you'll like kind of figure out, like you learn from your mistakes and you figure it out as you go. And that's another one of those games that's really rewarding. Like, the game counts how many times you die. And I died so many times beating it, but I did, and I finished it, and it doesn't matter. Like, so that's a really good one. All right, so role-playing game.
I think you know which one I'm gonna go with. But Zelda for me is like the best RPG style game that's ever been created. And obviously like the offshoots of the game and everything like that, it started a whole category. We'll say that, like, in my mind, like, specifically Zelda 64 on the Nintendo 64 was like the start to that whole genre of games and everything. It was a ton of fun. It was a game that I probably like. I remember this. I borrowed it from my cousin and had it for like years, and then he asked for it back because like, I couldn't get it on Nintendo 64 for a long time. I still don't know if you really be able to like. I mean, you could get it on eBay or something, but like that game is in, that's still a game that people want to play and would pay a decent amount of money for. Graphics not great, like everything like that didn't matter. It was awesome at the time, and looking back on it and everything, if you play it again, you're like, oh, like Breath of the Wild is like a lot more advanced and everything. But still, like the storyline, everything they set up, it was one of those games that like first time that for me as a kid and everything, you started to play and like you were in that world, right? Like you get called for dinner or whatever, and you're like, that did not matter at all. Like nothing else mattered but playing that game and like beating it and everything. It was an awesome experience and definitely like changed how people played games and how people viewed games or created games. So that's my choice.
You would think that I would say the same thing, seeing as how I have a Zelda tattoo, but I said Final Fantasy 15.
Okay.
It's the story. I don't know. The story is weird, but I really enjoyed it. And it's like you go on this adventure. it's weird because when you simplify it, it's like you're going on a bachelor, like a bachelor party road trip with the boys, basically.
Yeah.
Like so this group of four characters go on this big trip right before the main character's wedding. And you know, all the bad stuff happens and you got to fight all the bad guys and you know, save the day,
Yeah.
save the world. And it's just, it was the first Final Fantasy game I ever finished. So there's kind of like a special place in my heart for it
Hmm.
with that. But like, it was just even the parts where the game got weird and confusing, it was still just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed the combat and the story and the characters and just everything. So it's definitely Final Fantasy 15 for me. And I'm excited that Final Fantasy 16 is coming, and it looks like it's going to be pretty similar in terms of the combat.
Nice.
All right, so next was strategy games.
All right. There's a lot of games you can argue like the strategy, like you could say like, okay, NHL, like you're playing like that. There's like a lot of strategy to it. There's a lot of games like that. But a game that I can remember early on playing, so I kind of went down memory road with a lot of these games, and I think that's probably what is intended here. But Super Buster Bros. For Nintendo, it was like better known like for Bubble Buster, basically, but that's
Okay.
like not what the game, like not for that's not exactly what it was. But I just remember like it was a game that my uncle had on a Nintendo, and we started playing like when my mom got into it. Like it was just like a game that everybody played because it was just kind of wholesome and just a fun game. You're this character with like a backwards hat and you have to shoot these I don't know if they're like they're just like hooks, I guess, like line hooks or whatever that go up into these bubbles and the bubbles break out. And but there was such strategy to it, and the only way you got better at the game is I still never beat it, by the way. It is impossible. Like the end levels are so fast and you have to like dodge these things so good. It's like frustrating. And the part about the game that's crazy is like there's not much continuing, right? Like if you die, you start off at the games like aren't really like that anymore. Like there's no like, okay, now you gotta start from the beginning. You gotta do it all through. Like Twisted Metal was another game that was like that. You had to like survive with your friend, and like that's like all you could do. You can just like start over the game or anything. You had to make progress in the game and everything like that. So and the only way you did that was dying, basically. And I enjoy games like that where you have to be perfect, right? Like you can't make any mistakes. You have to play the game perfectly. That's why the strategy comes into play and everything like that. Anyway, that's and it's a cool game to check out anyway. You should check it out.
I went with StarCraft. I'm not good at StarCraft. I never finished StarCraft. It's on my list. Um,
Yeah.
but I think that for me, what I remember is I used to play it with my brother a
Yep.
lot. He was way better than me, and he would pummel me. But I just really enjoyed it, and like commanding a horde of aliens to go and attack the other
Yeah.
guy was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, I get in spurts of like wanting to play games like that too. Like I like StarCraft. I played that a lot when I was growing up too. But Age of Empires is like another strategy game that I didn't think of. But when you mention StarCraft, it's like along the same lines. It's um both those games are really good.
Yeah.
And actually, a new Age of Empires just came out, and if I had a PC, I'd probably buy it. But that's another thing. Like, I'm not going to go out and buy a whole PC. I'm a
Yeah.
Mac guy now, so I'm not going to go out and buy a whole PC just to play Age of Empires, unfortunately. But if they ever, release it for Mac, I'll definitely play it. But
There are so many games like that too, because there's also like Command and Conquer.
yeah,
Yeah, there were a lot of Command and Conquer games. All right, so next, what's the best game story?
there's a lot of games that have great stories. Like you could say like Zelda again was just like a game that forced you to like be part of the story and everything like that. I actually went with like a more modern game that I've been playing recently that I think the not that you know, it's maybe not the best like all-time favorite story. Like maybe that is Zelda for me, but like Ghost of Tsushima, like the storyline and like the gameplay and everything like that, the way it flows into it, and because I'm streaming it, I'm not like I really don't like probably watch as many cutscenes as other people do. To be honest, if I'm being honest, I'm a very much like action like oriented guy, and I kind of like pick up the storyline as I go. I'm not a guy
Let's
that
go. Let's go.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm not a guy that like will like put the controller down and like have a bowl of popcorn and watch the story. It's just not in me. That's why like The Last of Us, like I can understand the, you know, draw to that game, but like I would not be able to handle it. Like I just like can't wait around for them to it's a movie and
Yeah.
you have a slight part in it. In my
Mhm.
opinion, you know, like
I am probably so uninteresting on stream during those bits because I get so focused on the story and I'm just like I don't have anything to say. I'm just like, let's figure out what's gonna happen
oh,
next.
that's the crazy thing is like I enjoy watching you play the game. And I think that's why like Twitch and like Facebook gaming and everything like that like are so interesting, right? Because like there are games that like I would not want to play. Like I'm not, you know, like Among Us is another game like that. Like I would watch, but like in order to really play it, like I think that like you know it'd be fun to play, but like I enjoy so much just watching other people play that game. And Last of Us is another one like that because again, it's a movie, right?
Yeah, it really is.
So like I don't mind watching you play because like it's a movie and whatever. It's like cool to like see it like unfold and everything like that.
And then there
But
was that sniper up on the bridge, and I didn't know where he was, and it
yeah.
was oh my goodness.
Yeah, if Last of Us had more of like an open world scenario or whatever, then you could probably like get away from a lot of the cutscenes. Like in Ghost of Tsushima, you could still like go around and do a lot of stuff. So like you don't have
Mhm.
to, you know, if you want to escape the cutscenes for a little while. But anyway, that's just fun.
So I said Undertale, which I just keep bringing up.
Yeah.
It's a little indie game, and there's the story changes depending on how you play. Like I think there are three main endings with like different variations. I might be missing something. I've finished it twice so far. The other option is really hard, and I haven't finished it yet.
Hmm.
I might never do it because it's so hard. But Undertale, it's just a lot of fun. You play as a kid who fell down a hole and fell into the underground, and in the underground is where the monsters live. And so you are, you know, interacting with the monsters, becoming friends with some of them, becoming enemies with some of them, as you try to go back home. So that's pretty much it. But it's a really interesting game.
This is on the Switch.
It's on the Switch. It's on the PC.
Huh.
It's on PlayStation. I played it on PS4, but yeah, it's on Switch. It's on PS4. It's on computer. It's
Hmm.
everywhere. So, all right. And so for the last one, what is a game that you just keep revisiting?
I think it's probably a game for a lot of people, the same thing. Grand Theft Auto.
There you go.
You know, it's like a game that like you could always pick up and just like play, but you don't like, you know, like it's a game that anybody can play, first of all, and like a lot of people that do not play games play this game because it's always fun to see like, okay, what did they add now? And like, you know, what can you do now? And like, you know, certainly there's a lot of like other stuff you can do in the game that like, you know, whatever, like it's kind of cheesy or stupid or whatever, such as like getting a prostitute and being able to like, you know, that sort of thing of the game and everything. Those aren't the stuff that's like cool. It's the blowing up of the helicopters. It's like all that stuff. Like this, you know, I was watching a video the other day. It showed like blowing up a helicopter in every single like Grand Theft Auto game, and it was just really cool to see how the graphics have progressed and how and that's a game too that the storyline is very well integrated into the gameplay. So you'll be going to like do a mission or whatever, and they force you to understand the story based
Mm,
on the dialogue with the characters. So when that's what I mean. Like when that's like integrated into the game like that, I enjoy storylines like that. It's when like there's like overbearance of like all these cutscenes. I'm like, all right,
yeah.
like let's just like I play a video game to play a video game personally, but yeah, Grand Theft Auto is one that I think that they'll keep on making games. They'll start
Hmm.
adding like other games to it, like Red Dead Redemption's a path off of Grand Theft Auto. It's like another version kind of that game. So I think they'll explore other characters and other styles of game that are the same like that. But I think it's a game that's most controversial, but also a game that's not going anywhere.
Yeah, for sure. I said Kingdom Hearts. Even just the first one. I've played it so many times. I
Yeah.
just keep going back to it. I really like Kingdom Hearts. It's really weird how much I enjoy playing a game that's like Final Fantasy mixed with Disney characters. Like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
play as Sora, who's like an original character, but his buddies are Goofy and Donald Duck. Like that's so
yeah.
weird, but it's so fun. And sure, maybe it's for kids, but here I am,
Yeah.
a 30-year-old grown man, and I love it
Yeah,
still.
that's
And
all right.
I'll play it again. I'll
Yeah,
play it again.
that's a interesting choice.
Yeah.
But hey, everybody likes different games. Everybody likes, and it's not what you typically play. So it's like kind of one of those like it's like a hidden, what do they call that? Secret desire or something like that. I forget what they call that, but what the
I don't
phrase
know.
is for the
It's not that different from the stuff I play though. Like it plays a lot like Final Fantasy 15.
well, the style of game is, but you don't
Yeah.
play Disney games like,
I mean,
like
I would.
yeah.
I don't know. I don't see why not. Just give me as long as it's good, I'll play it.
Right, yeah, yeah. But what other games do you play with Disney characters?
I played a Frozen game.
Okay. All
Yep.
right.
I mean, not a whole lot or anything. There was a free on PS3 and PS4. There was a free to play game called Frozen Freefall, and it was basically like Bejeweled,
Yeah.
but with Frozen characters.
When the Aladdin game first came out, that was a very good game.
That game was hard.
It was very hard, but it was an awesome game. That's probably the only Disney game that I've ever played, but it was fun. It was fun at the time. But yeah, and
I played DuckTales. That's a Disney game.
okay, all right. Well, maybe more into the genre than what I thought, but yeah. You also have a young son. So do you
Well,
think that influences any of your gameplay at all?
no, that's just an excuse.
Okay.
Yeah. Look, I pre-ordered Kingdom Hearts 3 that
Yeah.
came out last year. Yeah, that was 2019. And that was for me. That was
Yeah.
all for me.
Does he share your love of video games?
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
plays them.
he does. Lately he mostly plays Rocket League lately. A little bit of like he's been playing some Mario. Like,
Yeah.
he'll play on the Switch and he'll go into like the old games on there. And
Oh, nice.
so he's playing a little bit of everything. But
Well, that's good. Those are like building blocks of like gamers,
Yeah.
right? Like those are like the games you have to like start to play and just like get very frustrated at, and then just But anyway, this was kind of fun to going through different categories of games and everything like that, bringing back a lot of memories of all these games that I've played. A lot of
we
ones
could have gone on forever.
Oh yeah. I mean, like this, and like too, like, we're friends because of well, not specifically video games, but like we share that bond interest together.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that you meet playing, like especially
Mhm.
online, play this stuff there's guys that I've like never met in real life, but I play video games with online, and you become friends with them. And that happened to me specifically with like Grand Theft Auto and stuff. There, when the story mode came out for that, there's like, because of the way that they set it up, you had to play with other people,
Mhm.
and everything, and it definitely I met a good friend of mine just like because he ran up to me and got in my car and I thought he was stealing it, but then he was like, no, turn on your mic. I just want to, I was like, okay. But anyway, yeah, so pretty cool. Different games. Let us know in the comments. Let us know. Send us a message on the, check out the podcast on Anchor. You can, we're mostly available pretty much anywhere you can listen to podcasts, and the Anchor program is pretty good at that. They release, your episode to everybody, so check that out. If you're watching this on Facebook, check out some of the other episodes we got up there. If you're more into podcasts and things like that, it's pretty cool. Some of the technology that is out there now to let you do that. For Benny Ulich and Ryan Collins, thanks for watching the Bonus Boss podcast, and we'll see you next week.